20 years ago on the 3rd of November we were introduced to Greatest Love Songs Volume 666. The sound of Greatest Love Songs Volume 666 has been described as a combination of heavy metal and 1980s rock and goth music. Valo also singled out Type O Negative as the main influence on Greatest Love Songs Volume 666. Lyrically, the album is heavy on symbolism centered around love and death, which would continue through the band's later work as well. As a whole, however, Valo has described the album as much more serious than the band's later releases, stating, "I guess I was a bit humorless back then. I thought we were really making some fucking fine art or something, and in hindsight, I realized that maybe it wasn't quite like that." The album opens with For You, intro, which features a 50s style intro taken from Chris Isaak's original Wicked Game. The main riff of the song is also taken from the song Bloody Hammer by Roky Erickson. For You, along with Our Diabolical Rapture, are the only two H.I.M songs to date to be co-written by guitarist Lynn Lindstrom. The latter of the two came to be after Valo heard Lindstrom playing a riff, which was then modified to be more stonery. This eventually evolved into Our Diabolical Rapture, which Valo described as progressive, yet catchy. Your Sweet 666 is a love song about how when another person does you harm, but still it's so fucking hard to let go. You're not even sure if you want to let go. The title was inspired by the alleged backmasking featured on Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, where TV evangelist Paul Crouch claimed that, when played backwards, satanic messages can be heard in the song, including the phrase "Here's to my sweet Satan." The use of the number 666 was seen by the band as purely symbolic and traditionally rock and roll, not indicative of Satanism. The Heartless was inspired by Valo's first crush, who fell in love with his best friend, whom Valo felt was being completely heartless to her. When Love and Death Embrace was chosen as the first single from the album by BMG Finland's Asko Kallinen, who felt that the song represented him at its core, to which Valo agreed, touting the song as being a good representation of the band overall. The verse chords are taken from the soundtrack of the TV series Twin Peaks, and the song also marks the band's first use of a Moog synthesizer, which Valo later called a trademark of him. The banging sounds featured on the beginning of the end were achieved by the band hitting trash bins in a cellar, while the opening riff of the song was performed by Valo, as Lindstrom was not present at the studio and the band wanted the world's shittiest sound played badly, which they believed Lindstrom could not provide. Wicked Game was originally released in 1989 by Chris Isaak on his album Heart-Shaped World. The song was used a year later in the David Lynch film Wild at Heart, which is where Valo was first introduced to it. Around this time, the band were low on original material and thus decided to add Wicked Game to their repertoire. According to Valo, the song was an integral part of the band's evolution and helped them develop their own sound. Don't Fear, The Reaper was originally released by American rock band Blue Oyster Cult in 1976 on their album Agents of Fortune. The Romeo and Juliet theme of the song inspired Valo to record it as a duet with June Hyde. He explained his decision, stating, "I never understood the manliness of the original by Blue Oyster Cult, as, the song, is clearly an exchange between a man and a woman. I thought it would be more interesting to make a version, where a boy and a girl decide you don't have to be afraid." This is a good first album but not one of my favorites. This album gets a 6 out of 10. Happy 20-year anniversary Greatest Love Songs Volume 666. I am the creepy robot voice and I will see you next time for another episode of Anniversary Reviews. By the way, is it just my cybernetic instincts or is Valo a very sexy and fuckable person? #yummy